Airtable formulas are needed in almost any of our Airtable project and bases. We want to build some text, calculate something, manipulate data in some way. In many, many cases, we need to use Airtable formulas and need to know Airtable formulas. I have looked through many of my Airtable projects and identified 10 must-have Airtable formulas that get you 80% of the way. And the good thing is we can learn them in about 10 minutes, and that's what we're going to do today. This video is part of the Airtable Essentials playlist. Airtable Essentials are my videos covering the basics that are needed in order to succeed with Airtable. So check out that playlist. But now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Welcome to today's video. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, tell a friend or colleague about it, would mean a lot. But now let's get started. On the screen here, you see the Airtable Formula Playground. That is a base that Airtable provides in order to test formulas. I've added this to my workspace. You can do the same, and I'll link in the description below. And then you find basically every formula that Airtable provides. So if you want to look a formula up or you want to see how it works, you can use this formula playground here. There's also a bit more there, the common errors that formula give, etc. So this is a very good reference when you're working with formulas. And the last thing I want to point you to here is the Airtable formula field reference article. Also going to link to this one in the description below. But you basically find every formula here, and we're also going to look into some of these further down in the video. But now let's get started. So I've created a base here, and for every formula or group of formulas we look over, we have a table here, and the first one is concatenate. Concatenate is we can add things together. So we can basically add texts and strings together in order to form a longer text. In our case, what we want to do is we want to give these records a unique name, and the unique name shall be the first and the last name. So that's a perfect example for concatenate, where we pass basically the arguments first and last name to this concatenate formula here, and then we save. As we can see, this doesn't look so nice yet. We can't really read that because usually what we do in our languages is we add a space between words. So that's what we're going to do here as well. So all of these are basically arguments for the concatenate formula. And here we're adding a space wrapped in double quotes. So if I save this, you will see now the name is properly formatted. There is a shorter way of doing concatenate. So I never use concatenate really. What I always do is I just type it like this, and then we have the ampersand, and this basically does the same thing. So if we add this, this basically creates the same string as before. If I save this, there we go. We have our properly formatted names. The next formula we want to look at is an if formula. If formula is basically say, if something happens, then do this, or otherwise do something else. So in our case, what we want to do is we want to send these people emails. And in that email, we want to add a text depending on how they scored. If the score is above 5, we want to say something like, hooray, you did great. If it's below 5, we want to say, sorry, you didn't pass. So we can use this email text formula here. And then we write if. First thing is sort of our condition, or what we want to set the condition as. And in our case, it's score. And if the score is greater than 5, we say, hooray, you did great. And otherwise, we say, sorry, you didn't pass. So, and if I save this, you see that if it's above 5, like if I would change this to 5, this would be sorry you didn't pass. Let me make this bigger. If it's 6, it says hooray, hooray, you did great. So this is an easy use case of how you can sort of use an if statement. First thing is the condition, and then the first value here is if the condition is met, and the second value is the else statement if the condition is not met. I want to take it one step further with if statements. And let's say we want to not only say, hooray, you did great, and sorry, you didn't pass. Maybe you also want to say you did all right, if it was sort of somewhere in between. So let's say above 10, it would be, hooray, you did great. Above 5 is up to 10 is you did all right. And then below 5, it's sorry, you didn't pass. This is what's called a nested if statement. And a nested if statement basically looks like this. So you start with an if, and then you have your condition, and then you give whatever needs to be returned if that condition is met. And otherwise, we have another condition, return what is given if that another condition is met, and otherwise we have an else. So if none of those have met those conditions, we give an else. So let's see how we would do this in this case. So we say if score is above 10, then we say hooray, you did great. And now we do another if score is above 5, we want to say, and now we need to take this here inside, we want to say you did all right. And otherwise, if it's below or equals 5, we want to say sorry, you didn't pass. So if I save this, see 6 is you did all right, but if I would change this to 11, it would change to hooray, you did great. If it's 5, it's sorry, you didn't pass. But if it's 6, it's you did all right. If it's 2, of course, it's sorry, you didn't pass. Everything under or equals 5 is basically sorry, you didn't pass. Nested ifs can get very complicated. It's very hard to get the syntax right. It's very error prone, and that's where often a switch statement helps, at least for text. So what we want to do in this case is we want to say if the status is to do, we want to write something into our email again. If it's doing something, if it's done something. If it's do, we want to say sorry, still need to work on it, etc. So we use a switch. And then the first thing we need to give is basically the field we're testing against. In our case, it's status. And then it's always pattern result, pattern result. So the first thing is to do. And we say, sorry, still need to work on it. And then the next one, doing, currently already doing this. And then the last one is done, already done. If I save this, you see that now the switch statement basically analyzes the status and gives us the text here. And of course, this can be expanded to 10, 20 of these combinations, and is very, very handy. If we would need to do this in a nested if, it gets very, very complicated. Yeah, next thing we want to look at is a bunch of date formulas. In Airtable, we need to work with dates all the time, and working with dates can be complicated, so Airtable gives us a couple of formulas to help with that. First thing is date-time difference. Date-time difference calculates the difference between two dates in a certain unit. So let's do this here, and we use the formula date-time diff. The first one is always the later date, and the second one is ideally an earlier date. So this gives positive integers because basically it's taking date 2 minus date 1. And let's say days in this case. So we do this, and now we know the 1st of February was 11 days ago, 6th of February, 6 days ago, etc. There is an article here, like the supported datetime diff unit specifiers in Airtable, and this basically gives you a list of all the specifiers that can be used, also abbreviations for those. In our case, we've used days. Second one I want to show you is the datetime format. So let's say you want to format this in a different format and you want to pass it somewhere, then this will create a text that you can pass, I don't know, via Zapier, via an automation somewhere, and the text will be maintained. So we use datetime format. We need to pass the date, in our case, the date field, and then some specifier. I'm based in Germany, so we format days dates like this, always with a dot in between. So that's how we would give the 1st of February 2024. Also here we have a list, an article, I'm going to link to this in the description, for all the formatting options. So it's a long list of options that you can pass as parameters in order to format your days. Very, very handy if you need to format in Airtable. What happens often is that you have a formula in which you are using a date like today, and then it basically, if I add a text to this, sorry, like this, it comes out like this, right? And a lot of people are always very confused about it. Like, what do I do with this? Basically, you would need to wrap this again in a datetime format. So you'd say datetime format today, and then you give here the options and then you save this, and now you can see sort of that it's saved properly. So if you're using a date within a formula, then often you need to wrap it in a datetime format in order to format that date. There's a date add formula, which is basically adding to a date adding to a date again with a specified unit. So we can use the date add, and then we use date, for instance, and 2 days. This would now add 2 days to that date in the first column. So this was the 1st of February, and now it's the 3rd of February. Second, minute, days, etc., is something I want to show you last, and this is basically um, giving a number for a day in this case. So this was the first 6, 8. Very handy for month and year. So if we use the month and we give the date here, then this would give us now 2 for February, etc. So, and then you could actually use this in groupings. That's what I do all the time in order to group year, month, etc. So you just create a month and year formula on a date. Yeah, last 3 formulas I want to show you, and I'm going to go over these quickly because I didn't want to make this video too long. Substitute. So as you can see, we have a bunch of I hate Airtable here, which of course isn't true for anyone. So we can use substitute, and then we give name, in our case the text where we want to substitute something. Then we can specify the text that we want to substitute, hate. I want to substitute this with love. So now we have I love Airtable. That's substitute. Very, very handy. Record ID is something that we need to use, for instance, in Zapier often. If we want to find a unique record, we can create a field here, record ID, and then we just pass record ID. And this will give us the unique record ID of this record. So if I create more records here, they all get another unique record. And then we can, for instance, in Zapier, run a search query against that record ID. Last thing I want to show you is created time and modified time. Some of you might know that there are actually fields of this, like created time and modified time. So these are also field types. But if you want to use them in formulas directly, you don't have to create more fields for that. So you can remove the clutter, and I use these quite often. So here is a created time formula, and the same exists also for modified. So both actually exist in formulas as well, and give you sort of the last modified time. I need to modify this record. Now we also have a value here. And that's how you can use these two. Very, very handy for calculating the difference between when has this record been added or last modified, of course. Yeah, and that's it. 10 must-know Airtable formulas in about 10 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it brings value. If it did, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, tell a friend or colleague about it. It would mean a lot. And for now, happy automating, and see you next time.